This program is intended for informational and educational purposes only. All views and opinions expressed are the views and opinions of the individuals and sponsors presenting them, and not the LTB network. Enjoy the show.
Welcome to Bitcoins and Gravy, episode 16.
On BitcoinAverage.com, a millibit is trading for 45 cents, or $450 per Bitcoin. Now, some people say Bitcoin is just sitting and not moving, but we know the truth. Bitcoin is more active than a one-legged man in a butt-kicking contest. Yes, folks, our Bitcoin is still kicking some major booty.
Now that's gravy. Welcome to Bitcoins and Gravy, and thanks for joining us today as we podcast from East Nashville, Tennessee. I'm John Barrett.
And I'm Lij Shaw.
We're two Bitcoin enthusiasts who love to talk about Bitcoins
and share what we learn with you. Welcome to Bitcoins and Gravy, and thank you for listening.
On today's show, Lij and I have a lively discussion with Sean Roy of CoinMobs.com. Sean tells us about his mission and strategy for getting merchants to accept Bitcoin payments. CoinMobs might just be the thing we need to get merchants excited about increasing their sales via Bitcoin.
But first, we take you to Albany, New York to talk with Paul Padarakis of Coffee Time at Hellas Bakery and Chris Dosh, founder of the Capital Region Bitcoin Meetup. We learn all about the exciting developments there, from Bitcoin ATMs to winning the Coinbase app contest, and how Bitcoin is shipping out from Albany to find welcome shores around the globe. Who knew that landlocked Albany, New York was such a port of Bitcoin activity?
So stay right here for more Bitcoins and Gravy. And remember to call us on the Bitcoins and Gravy hotline with your comments or questions at 615-208-5198, or simply click on the hotline link from your mobile phone when you visit bitcoinsandgravy.com. Or you can email us at howdy@bitcoinsandgravy.com. That's howdy@bitcoinsandgravy.com. Okay, on today's show,
Paul Padarakis is calling in from Albany, New York.
And he's also there with Chris Dosh.
Also from Albany, New York?
Correct.
Chris, I think you were explaining that you guys are about maybe 15 minutes to 30 minutes away from each other, but both able to use the wonders of technology and Skype in to talk to us on this interview. Paul, you're coming to us from Coffee Time Hellas. Am I saying that correctly?
Yep, it's a Coffee Time at Hellas Bakery. So it's one word all the way through.
Oh, okay, excellent. And then, Chris, you are the founder of the Capital Region Meetup.
That is correct.
Now tell us about the origin of that word, Capital Region. What is that?
So the Tri-City area between Albany and Niskayuna and, you had Albany, Troy, and Schenectady, really. But the region is typically referred to as the Capital Region, capital of New York. The goal, instead of writing Albany Bitcoin Meetup, I wanted to be more inclusive of the surrounding areas.
Right. And of course, John and I didn't think of that because we were both skipping geography class back in the day, because we were off daydreaming about future cryptocurrencies instead.
That's understandable.
It's true, I confess.
And Paul, can you tell us about yourself and about Coffee Time?
Yeah, Coffee Time was actually formed in August of 2013, so it's a fairly new company. We we kind of got into an industry that my family's not too familiar with. I mean, besides us drinking coffee and eating Greek baked goods, we fell into this industry just because our love of the Greek culture. The trouble we were having is our competition. You got Starbucks out there, Dunkin' Donuts, McDonald's. There's tons of places that sell coffee. Gas stations, everything. Everybody sells coffee. So we needed to find a different avenue, just a different way to get, customers into our stores. And this is where technology kind of meets that road. And I think that's something we'll get into more as the conversation goes on.
Yeah. So let's make sure our listeners are aware. At Coffee Time, you guys are accepting Bitcoin. And then you were saying you came from working at GameStop in the past. Was that right?
Yeah, I started with GameStop. I worked with the GameStop company for 14 years. I was actually on the board setting up their Power Up Rewards program. So I'm not sure if you're familiar with the Power Ups program, which is their loyalty card. but it's one of the largest loyalty cards out there right now. So
okay, no, I think we can all understand what that's about. I haven't used it myself, but
okay.
I actually get dizzy when I play video games. In fact, I tried to play them again at Christmas, and I got dizzy once again. So, Paul, your experience at GameStop means that you probably came into this concept of Bitcoin, I'm guessing, having an easy time understanding what it was all about, as opposed to scratching your head and saying, what is this thing?
Or maybe it was Magic the Gathering that got you involved. Ooh.
Actually, to be honest with you, yeah, it did have me scratching my head a little bit. Just, I got familiar with Bitcoin in 2013, more or less reading news articles online. Didn't really get into it until I met Chris, through an email, and that's where his knowledge just helped me learn a lot about cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, some of the altcoins out there.
Okay, great. And Chris, how old is the meetup that you started?
So the meetup started January of this year, so fairly new. It's I got into Bitcoin actually. I got into Bitcoin in early 2012, but I had just kind of been following it casually, seeing what it was up to, following news stories. And when I really got deeper into it is when I decided to give a talk at work about Bitcoin. And I have over, at our site, there's over 3,000 other scientists and engineers. And I figured I'd get a lot of very, very skeptical questions. So I wanted to really understand it so I could answer anything that came my way. And I spent a couple months just really diving into it and looking at anything I could to give this talk at work. And since then, I've been really interested, and I've been going to conferences, and I've been meeting as many people as I can in the space, and really trying to learn as much as I can about it. And that's what led me to make the meetup. I wanted to introduce more people in the area so we could have more places on coinmap.org, which we had none of before our meetup, and now I'm happy to say we have 5.
Oh, nice. So it sounds pretty interesting. You're giving a talk at work. I can't imagine many employers who would say, hey, come in and talk to us about Bitcoin. How did that work?
Well, so fortunately, Friday afternoons during lunch, it's kind of a free time. Once a week, there's a list of who wants to give a talk, and you can pretty much talk about anything. I'm sure there'd be limitations if you really wanted to push it, but it's just there's so many different people on site that are into so many different things. Their day job all revolves around science and engineering in some way, but there's a lot of other outside of work interests that people have, and so these talks are great for that. And usually people are pretty passionate about what they're talking about, so they tend to be of pretty high quality. And so I was really I was interested to see what kind of reception I would get with Bitcoin, because I was hoping that I wouldn't just get shoved out of the room with skepticism, as back in early 2013 there was still a lot of skepticism around. But it actually went better than I was expecting it to, and it helped a lot that I could answer kind of on the spot any questions they had. I had an answer to ready. So
that's great.
Okay, cool. And so what are some of the highlights of the Bitcoin meetup that you started? I think you guys have some pretty interesting people joining up there and doing cool stuff with Bitcoin.
Yeah, so even though we've only been around for a couple months now, we've actually only had 5 meetups so far, local. There's been, I've gotten a couple people to travel to Inside Bitcoins and the MIT Expo recently here, but as far as local meetups, we've only had 5. And we got our 50th member just yesterday. But even despite, the still somewhat small size, there's a lot of things going on. So one of the members actually has started his own ATM company, and he just got his first ATM. And so he's excited. He's in the process of figuring out where to put that. He has some pretty big plans for expanding. We have another developer in our meetup group who just won Coinbase's hackathon. So we got that $10,000 hackathon prize. His app is the Coin Planter app, and it's pretty neat if anyone hasn't checked it out. And so, yeah, he's been great. It was interesting, getting to go through the experience as he was talking about his app while he was developing it. So we have someone else he actually works in a tech park, and below him is this very large vending machine company that they have, nationwide have lots of vending machines. And so they have a full working concept of their Bitcoin vending machine. They'd actually just put a video up on YouTube of that recently. So, talking with them and kind of providing feedback, and him coming to the meetup and asking questions. It's been great getting to see that vending machine come from something where, there was this computer off to the side plugged into the vending machine to where now it just looks like this beautiful, complete vending machine. It's been pretty cool to see that take place. And so it's kind of neat that we have, the meetup just started, but there's so much going on, and there's so much room to grow too, because there's over 10 four-year colleges and universities within the 30-minute driving distance. And so once we start tapping into all those universities, I think there's a lot of room for this to be a pretty big meetup that's just going to get started here.
Okay, yeah, Paul. And also, are you guys having Bitcoin meetups, and how's Coffee Time come into this whole thing?
Well, that's the thing. Coffee Time was in pretty bad shape over the holiday season. Again, I was going into an industry along with a family we weren't familiar with. So Bitcoin kind of rejuvenated us. I would kind of call it Bitcoin saved Coffee Time.
Wow.
And the reason is Bitcoin in the media. We're the first in the area to accept Bitcoin. So we were blasted with media. So we got the headline in the Schenectady Gazette. We're on the front page accepting it. We're on some news stations, and I just got done with an interview. I mean, as far as the Philippines with IBC News over there, because they were interested about Bitcoin. And we have a store in Manila.
Yeah, that's a pretty fascinating story that you come from. Tell us a little bit more about your family background. I mean, a store in Albany and a store in Manila. You sent me that email and I thought, of course, they're next door neighbors. Where else would you put two coffee shops?
And that's the thing. We don't do a good job as a company explaining that. And unfortunately, when the reporters also go into that, you have to look at the blogs where it just lights up, where nobody focuses on the food, nobody focuses on Bitcoin. What they focus on in the areas, and they want to know where we're going to go next. Antarctica, Buenos Aires, that type of thing. So I feel like Ben Affleck on Batman getting blasted.
Well, guilty as charged. Tell us more about where you guys are planning on going next. Let me fill in for our listeners a little bit. Your father is a maritime captain, is that right?
That's correct. He's a retired captain. We have a shipping supply company in Ho Chi Minh City, Vietnam. So we settled in Southeast Asia. We expanded into Manila. Therefore, we opened up our first, restaurant, coffee shop combo there. And that was opened up in 2009. We do Greek pastries. There wasn't anything Greek related in Manila. So we decided to open one up and see how the Filipino citizens felt. And they loved it. And we're actually opened up across the street from a Starbucks, which is great. And we outperform them most nights. From there, we decided to expand to my hometown, which is, the Albany area. And we have two stores that opened up within 7 months from each other.
Tell us a little bit more about getting customers in, spending Bitcoin. How have they approached it? What's their reaction been? And do they even know what it is?
Well, that's the thing. January, 8% of our sales were Bitcoin, that's a huge number. And again, I owe it all to Chris in the Albany Meetup group. Chris sent out, I don't know how many emails, but I believe it was over 150. And you can you correct me if I'm wrong, Chris, to tons of businesses in the area explaining Bitcoin, what it is. And the most important thing I saw from Chris is Chris has Bitcoin. Everybody has, they have Bitcoins that they want to spend in a store. Mm-hmm. So why would somebody say no to that? So, I jumped right on it. Chris emailed me. I set up an account with BitPay the following day, and that's where we go from there. But the fact of the matter is, in Albany, we're in a prime spot. We're in a great spot. We have a lot of lawyers, a lot of state workers, and we're blasted with Bitcoin all over our store. It raises questions. I do it on purpose because most people are going to be coming in negative when it's related to Bitcoin due to the media.
Yeah.
That's what they read. They read the illegal activity and whatnot, but...
They think you put something funny in their coffee if you're selling it for Bitcoin?
Sure. Yeah, the funniest thing,
what kind of brownies are those?
No, most people that come in, they see us running on an iPad Square. They see the Bitcoin, and they always ask, do you still accept cash? And it's pretty funny hearing that because I do hear it from a lot of customers. And
you say, well, in your response is, no, I'm sorry, cash is used for a lot of illicit drug activities and other transactions.
And money laundering and all of that.
Yeah, I mean, we try and stay away from cash. Okay, next question. What advice do you have for other business owners that might be interested or curious, but they're a little nervous about getting their feet wet in accepting Bitcoin and for that matter, Litecoin and Dogecoin?
Yeah, pretend like you're talking to all the people out there who own coffee shops and small businesses, and they're thinking about it. They're on the fence about it. They're just not sure. Convince them.
So now I guess I have to use my salesmanship here.
That's right, man.
But there shouldn't be a need. People are scared. People are afraid to embrace change, and cryptocurrencies and that technology, e-money I call it. I mean, this is definitely the future. I would tell them as a business owner, if you have a customer, even if it's just one that wants to spend their money, be it $1, a gift card maybe from another store, and you have that power to accept it, especially small business owners. You do it as a customer service. That's first and foremost. The reality is that, they're scared of Bitcoin because, again, the media has done a good job of making Bitcoin sound like an illegal type of currency. There's great companies out there to work with. I've been working with BitPay. You don't need to take the transaction doesn't need to be a Bitcoin. You can have it transferred into US dollars the following day. So I think that's probably the number one concern from businesses is they don't want Bitcoin. They want US dollars at this time just because they're not familiar with Bitcoin.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Were these all fears and concerns that you yourself had when you were getting into this?
Actually, not really. I did a little reading. When Chris notified me about Bitcoin, I did a little reading and I set myself up with BitPay and I familiarized myself with their account and the way they set things up. So I just jumped right into it. To me, he was a customer looking to make a purchase at my store with a different currency that I wasn't familiar with. I did a little studying, didn't take too long, and we jumped right into it.
I think you had the advantage of having Chris there to consult with and to answer all of your questions. Maybe other businesses that are thinking about accepting Bitcoin or who are on the fence about it, maybe they could go to their local Bitcoin meetup and talk to some people, and maybe that would help move them away from media information and toward true information.
Yeah, that's one thing I really hope to do more of. So far we've had a really consistent user base of people who have already, for the most part, been into Bitcoin. Every now and then we get someone who just has heard about it. We had a guidance counselor that came by and said, I heard the kids talking about it. I wanted to know what it was. But for the most part, it's people that are already very into Bitcoin. And I'd really like to start expanding the group so that, by word of mouth, people know that if they have a couple questions about Bitcoin, we'd be more than happy to answer them and help their business out. That's something I'm going to start trying to figure out how to best do that, and maybe do some local advertising. And I haven't really figured out the best way to go about that yet, but I think that's how it should be. I think local businesses should be able to go to a meetup group in the area, and that's a great way to get all their questions answered.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so it sounds like you're still trying to figure out a way to spread the Bitcoin gospel to people who don't know about it yet. But as far as people who do know about it and bringing Bitcoin spenders into local businesses, do you have any tips on that? Any advice as far as generating a Bitcoin mob to show up at a local business?
Is this before you have a meetup group or afterwards? First you need to get a meetup group going. And so that was the hard part for me, is to get anyone to join a meetup group. And so what I did to start the meetup group, I guess a little background is, I threw it up on meetup.com, but people weren't instantly flocking to a meetup group in the beginning. So I went out and put a couple cheap ads on Facebook targeted towards specific interests like technology, or I put one up for Bitcoin in case there were a few Bitcoin people in the area already, and kind of let them trickle in that way. And then I went on to Craigslist and looked for any listing that was already mentioned Bitcoin, either for, maybe someone trying to find Bitcoin, maybe someone selling old mining equipment. And so I messaged them to let them know that I was starting a meetup. I went on to localbitcoins.com, and there was people trying to buy and sell Bitcoin, and I contacted them and apologized that I was contacting them for not wanting to buy or sell, and let them know that, one time, hey, we're starting a meetup group. And so that kind of helps to get the initial group together. And then my plan was to get at least one business in the area to accept Bitcoin, which is when, Paul came into play. So I sent one email out to over 100 businesses in the area, just kind of trying not to shove anything down their throats, but just say, hey, if you have any interest in Bitcoin, you've probably seen it in the news recently, I'd be happy to answer your questions. Really briefly gave you some of the advantages, that you can convert instantly to fiat. There's no exchange risk for you. There's less fees than credit cards. There's no risk of you becoming the next target. And said, all right, if you want to contact me, contact me. And so Paul was one of the people that contacted me from that email. So now that we have some places in the area that have Bitcoin and 50 people in the meetup group, now my next step is, okay, how do we start expanding that and getting new people in? And that's, what I'm going to have to figure out going forward from now.
Well, when you figure that out, let us know here in Nashville.
Of course, you let me know.
Well, here in Nashville, because I think we're the same as you. I think we've had 4 or 5 Bitcoin meetups so far. We've got a great core group, a great group of developers here. The same thing. We want to grow it, and we also really want to bring in those people who are curious about it, but who have never been to a Bitcoin meetup in their life.
Do you think it's necessary for that first business to be set up with a merchant BitPay account, or do you think that there's a clever way that maybe you could bring a mob to a business and use Bitcoin, even if they don't know what it is yet, and just to start generating interest?
Yeah, I guess maybe you could go there and you have a big group there, and maybe a business would be happy, like, oh wow, we never have this much business. What's going on? And you could say, oh, we all we're all gathered here because we're interested in Bitcoin, and then you could maybe demo it right there. Someone showing. I'm stuck with the iPhone, so I use the BitPay because there's no point of sale for iOS for Coinbase. So, but on BitPay, it's as simple as clicking a link. I could pretend I'm a store and have someone pay me while the store watches, and maybe they'd say, oh hey, the store is busier than we've been all week. Maybe we should look into this. That might not be a bad model.
No, I like that.
Okay, I love your suggestion, and that's kind of what I was hoping for. So you're saying maybe you could receive the Bitcoin from everybody else at the group and transact it, or turn around and pay for the coffee that way and show them how it works?
Yeah, and at least they'd get a feel for, oh, look, there's people that actually use this here too. Instead of, if it's just one person sending an email, they might be like, all right, great, you'll come in and use it, and then I'll never see it again.
Yeah, I like it.
So yeah, getting a group together, that might be a pretty good idea. Word of mouth is also really powerful too. Once we have a decent group, there's been slowly more people trickling in, and even at work, I had someone that called me that I met once, and they called me up and said, hey, you want to get lunch sometime? If I remember correctly, you might be able to answer some Bitcoin questions I have, just because I mentioned it a while back, and it's still in their minds, And so more and more people now have been kind of coming to find me saying, hey, I heard you were the person to ask about Bitcoin. So I think it takes some time, but once the group is out there, as other people have questions, they'll start directing them to you. but it takes some time.
That's nice. You know, it sounds like you guys are taking Albany by storm, and that's pretty exciting, doesn't it, Lidge? I mean,
yeah, I mean, it sounds like, you know, the Patarakises would understand the concept of a storm and how to deal with it, right?
Absolutely,
You guys come from that maritime history, that family history.
That's right, weathering the storm.
Well, another tactic, too, that everybody can use, and again, if you have a favorite store or stores, you can always give them a call and just ask them a simple question as, do you guys accept Bitcoin?
Yeah.
I want to make a purchase. As simple as that, knowing that they do not, but just, you know, bringing it up.
Yeah, I've done that.
Absolutely, because if you're talking to an employee, they'll bring it up to their manager, you know, that type of thing. And that's the way it works. It goes from employee, you know, to management, and it goes up the ranks and that. So if they hear a lot about it.
Yeah, I like to pick one business, and then I like to call them every day, like 4 or 5 times a day. Say, hey, yeah, do you take Bitcoins? And the next time I call them, do you take Bitcoins?
Hello, do you take Bitcoin?
You all take Bitcoins, right? And then until finally at the end of the day, you know, they either want to kill you or they decide to accept Bitcoins. Yeah,
y'all caught Bitcoins yet?
Another idea that might be useful, I've kind of tossed around in the past, is maybe having some sort of kind of Bitcoin bounty, to where you could say, you know, kind of collect money from a big group and say, yeah, like, you know, I'll pay if this favorite store of ours, you know, starts accepting Bitcoin within the next 3 months, you know, I'll give $20. And if a large number of people do that, and, you know, the store starts accepting Bitcoin, then they get that money. You need to find someone, you know, maybe do a multi-sig address to put all the money into and find a way to work out those details, or have a nice website where a business can see based on which date they accepted it by how much money they'd get. Because maybe different people can donate at different times, or maybe they have different deadlines. You know, maybe someone would say, hey, I'll donate $100 if they do it by the end of the week. And so maybe you'd be able to see on the website, you know, as a business owner, how much money you'd get if you started accepting Bitcoin, and also, you know, how long until that expires. Maybe that'd be an interesting kind of viral way to start getting businesses to accept Bitcoin as well.
Yeah, or how about we add a feature onto Coin Planter wherein you have to go to a place and shoot a video of yourself asking the manager if they accept Bitcoin, and then post that, and then you get your Bitcoin bonus there.
Nice.
Oh, that'd be very cool. I like that.
Well, guys, it's been fantastic talking to you and having you on the show. Really cool. I feel like I'm 1 foot in East Nashville and 1 foot in Albany, New York right now.
Well, it was great talking to you guys. I love the show.
Thank you very
guys.
much. And you guys are an inspiration to us. I think all the suggestions you had for our listeners is probably going to spark a lot of ideas with people about how to start up a Bitcoin zone in their own region.
Yeah, we're shooting for a Bitcoin zone here in East Nashville, and we're making headway. We're not quite there yet, but you guys are definitely an inspiration to us.
Well, if anyone has any family or relatives in the Albany, New York area, and they're listening to this, you know, let them know that the Capital Region Bitcoin Group is there. They can search for us on meetup.com, and let them know to come by and say hi.
So tell us, how can we direct people to the coffee shops? What are the addresses?
Our original store in Schenectady is 1491 State Street, and our Albany location is at 5 Clinton Avenue in Albany.
Excellent. And how about for those listening in the Philippines?
Yeah.
Well, that's in Bellagio Square in Malate in Manila.
Bellagio Square. It sounds nice. I wish I was there right now.
Paul, do you also do mail order for any coffee or anything like that? Can we buy some baklava across the world with my Bitcoin?
Absolutely. You can actually go to our website and fill out a customer form to do that. We do sell our products through Amazon, and we're also providing a service in store too that I didn't mention, where customers can come in, either pay cash or Bitcoin for their products through us, and have it shipped either to themselves or to the store. So that's something that we might hopefully be able to do nationwide, but right now it's just in store.
Very cool.
I should interject, that's not just for your product, that's for anything on Amazon.com, right, Paul?
Well, that's for anything on Amazon.com. Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, that's great. And Paul, correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't making a good Greek coffee a fine art?
Yeah, it all comes down to the fire and making sure you get it at the proper rise.
Fire and the proper rise. It sounds like Bitcoin, man.
Well, guys, thank you so much for joining us on Bitcoins and Gravy. It's been a pleasure, and we look forward to having you back in the near future.
Look forward to it.
Thank you. Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Cheers.
I'm John Barrett.
And I'm Lid Shaw.
We're 2 guys from East Nashville, Tennessee who love talking about Bitcoin. Join us for Bitcoins and Gravy right here as we talk with business owners around the country and around the world who are using Bitcoins right now to grow their businesses.
We interview Bitcoin experts about cutting-edge developments, the future of Bitcoin the currency, and Bitcoin the shared network. We also talk with everyday folks who use Bitcoins instead of money for everyday purchases.
And if you're still not sure about Bitcoins, we can help. Bitcoins and and Gravy will get you up to speed with this new fast-paced technology, Bitcoin. We invite you, the listener, to call us on the Bitcoins and Gravy hotline at 615-208-5198 with your questions or comments about Bitcoin.
And remember to tune in right here for Bitcoins and Gravy.
Now that's gravy.
All right, it's time once again for the "Aw Heck" section. Absolutely wicked, awesome hotline emails and comments, kids. John, what do we got on deck today?
Lidge, this SoundCloud comment comes in from Adia Air. Adia writes, Adia is actually pronounced Adia. You were very close, smiley face. My "that's brilliant" in quotes was referring to the bit about the mixing board and Hotel California. That's pretty cool, she says. As for Two Broke Girls, it's just a silly sitcom I like that airs on Mondays. Also, yes, I am a belly dancer. Hi, and a smiley face. Adia, thank you so much, and I will have to say that I initially thought your name was Adia Air, and I told Lidge that. Lidge knows someone named Adia, and so he thought it was Adia. Common mistake, I'm sure. But anyway, that's all to say that I was right and Lidge was wrong. Anyway, Two Broke Girls, I haven't seen it. I'm sure it's a funny show. I'm glad it's on Mondays, and I'm glad you're enjoying our show. What's next, Lidge?
So, John, we also got another email in from a listener who asked to remain anonymous, and their comment was that they were quote, still having trouble finding a reliable source for buying Bitcoins. Any ideas for your listeners? Well, so I responded and was sort of asking why. Of course, my immediate response was, well, geez, I used Coinbase and I found it really easy.
Yeah.
But his response or her response was that doesn't work for everybody. Some people don't want to link their bank account to a company like Coinbase in order to get Bitcoins.
I can understand that.
And so we have some follow-up emails too. Let me read these to you.
Okay, great.
The response was that I initially started buying from a friend in New Hampshire. Next, cash into coins was great. All I did was deposit cash into their bank account and they sent me the BTC. They no longer do that. They require postal money orders and a photo ID. Local Bitcoins was way too expensive, too much markup and hassle. I am not interested in linking my bank account to anything, and I'd like to preserve as much anonymity as possible. The cash into Bitcoins was the best for me. Keep up the good work on the show. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it. We'll honor your request to remain anonymous.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Anonymous.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Anonymous. So I think my answer on this is that I personally had no issue with signing up with Coinbase and connecting my bank account. But as our listener points out, that's definitely not for everybody. That doesn't work for everybody. And I suppose there are times in our lives where that might not work for us. So, John, do you have any thoughts on the best ways to get Bitcoin if you would like to remain anonymous and not get charged an arm and a leg for it?
Yeah, well, I don't know if it's the same as far as local Bitcoins, but when I was in California last year, I needed some money. I was visiting my mom and I ran out of money and I had a Bitcoin that I wanted to sell. I had it on my iPhone at the time still, when that app was still working for me. So I actually went to localbitcoins.com and I was able to message back and forth with a guy who actually called me on my phone. And we set up a meeting. I met him at a local grocery store there in the beer aisle, and then we sat at a table there in the Nugget Market there in Davis, California, and just did a transaction, cash transaction. We both had our phones, and he had cash, and I made sure to have the cash before we actually did it. And so that worked out really well, but I don't know on local Bitcoins if that opportunity is still there to message somebody and to have a communication with them without going through the escrow system that they offer. But if it is, that's a great way. Just talk to people on local Bitcoins and just try to meet up with them. Of course, exercise normal caution, meet in a public place. Don't do anything stupid. Don't transfer the Bitcoin from phone to phone until you have the cash there on the table and you're sure they're not going to run with it. That's my suggestion, or Craigslist.
So do you consider that a form of anonymity? I guess it is in a sense. I mean, like, for example, we exchanged an email here and our listener asked to remain anonymous, even though I personally might have some indication of who this person is. I don't know.
Right.
So, if I met you face to face one day somewhere and bought Bitcoin from you, you might quite recognizing me in that moment, but, unless we're taking photographs of each other or whatever, then I'm probably going to forget who you are by next week. And so that's a form of anonymity, I think.
Absolutely. A couple of years back, I wanted a lawnmower, so I got a cheap lawnmower. I went on Craigslist, and this old guy had rebuilt the lawnmower, just a push mower, and he repainted it, and he was really proud of it, and he just did that in his spare time. He would redo old lawnmowers.
We got a lot of that here in East Nashville.
We got a lot of that here in East Nashville.
It's like a great industry.
It really is. So, I went and I bought the lawnmower from him for $35, and this was years ago, actually. It was more than a couple of years ago, and I had that lawnmower for years, but, that was an anonymous transaction. Besides that old guy and me, nobody really knew that it happened, although I do recall his wife there in the kitchen looking out the kitchen window, so it was not completely anonymous. But yeah, why not have transactions like that with Bitcoin?
What was she making, man? Was she making biscuits and gravy by any chance?
Oh, man. It was either that or apple pie. It was something wholesome and American and just pure goodness. So
right on.
Either one, yeah.
Well, shout out to our listeners again to call in or write in to howdy@bitcoinsandgravy.com or call us on the hotline.
Bitcoins and Gravy hotline, yeah, 615-208-5198.
Yes, so please call us on the hotline and call in with your answers to this listener's questions about purchasing Bitcoin anonymously, or if you would like to call in with your own questions to have them answered on the show, please let us know what are some of the pain points for you in Bitcoin, or what are some of the things that you're most excited about in the world of Bitcoin, new apps, new companies, new uses, things that you hope for.
Good stuff, good stuff.
Oh, thanks, dude.
Yeah. Call us, email us. We want to hear from you.
John, any more emails or comments?
Okay, Goobatron writes in, "Thanks for another episode, guys. This is my third one. You have a convert." Hey, Goobatron, thank you so much. It's listeners like you that make this show. Without you, we wouldn't have a show. Thank you so much. We really appreciate that. Lidge, I have a very important announcement for our listeners. Are you ready? Listen up, folks. This is serious. Next week begins our official Bitcoins and Gravy contest, where you, the listener, get to compete for 0.25 Bitcoins. That's right. That's 1/4 of a Bitcoin. Lidge, how many millibitcoins or millibits is that?
Well, John, that's 250 millibits.
Now that's real gravy, man.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, Lidge, so here's the scoop. You remember the great song I wrote, Ode to Satoshi, right?
But of course.
The one that we released on YouTube last February?
Yes, the one we recorded right here at the Toy Box Studio on the famous MCI mixing board.
That's the one, man. Well, so far, we've received almost 2 Bitcoins in tips from all of the YouTube listeners who have been generously showing their appreciation for the song. And as promised, we are going to use those Bitcoin tips to produce a music video for the song.
Okay, man, this is so awesome. Let our listeners know how they can participate.
Okay, here we go. Lidge and I have already begun pre-production of the music video, and now what we need is submissions from you, our listeners. We want you, the listener, to be in our music video, so here's what you do. Using your smartphone or video camera, we want you to make us a karaoke video with you lip-syncing, dancing, or doing something creative to the song Ode to Satoshi. The winner will be featured in the music video and will win 0.25 Bitcoins.
That's right, folks. 0.25 Bitcoins, 250 millibitcoins. And to get you back in the mood and in the spirit, here's Ode to Satoshi.
Now climb aboard, y'all. This train is bound for glory. And there's plenty of room for all. Well, Satoshi Nakamoto, that's a name I love to say. And we don't know much about him, but he came to save the day. When he wrote about the way things are and the way things ought to be, he gave us all a protocol this world had never seen. Oh, Bitcoin, as you're going into the old blockchain. Oh, Bitcoin, I know you're going to rain, till everybody knows, till everybody knows your name. Down the road it will be told about the death of old Mt. Gox, about traders trading altar coins and miners mining blocks. But them good old boys back in Illinois and on down through Tennessee, see, they don't care to be a millionaire, they're just wanting to be free. Oh, Bitcoin, as you're going into the old blockchain. Oh, Bitcoin, I know you're going to rain, till everybody knows everybody knows your name. While the bankers count our money out for every government. Oh, Bitcoin flies on through the skies of virtuality, a promise to deliver us from age-old tyranny. Oh, Bitcoin, as you're going into the old blockchain. Oh, Bitcoin, I know you're going to reign, till everybody knows, till everybody knows your name. Till everybody knows, till everybody knows your...
Give me some exposure.
Everybody knows your name, sing it. Oh, Lord, pass me some more. Oh, Lord, before I have to go. Oh, Lord, pass me some more. Oh, Lord, before I have to go.
Thank you, East Nashville. Y'all be good to each other out there, you hear? Today, Lidge and I are very pleased to welcome into the studio Sean Roy of CoinMobs. Tell us about CoinMobs.
You know, we have the missing link in the Bitcoin economy, and that is, merchants and employers. If merchants out there aren't accepting Bitcoin or, any cryptocurrency for that matter, that leaves the whole equation with this great big gaping hole in the middle.
Yeah, the missing link.
In order to close that gap and fill that link, we have to, as a world population, just as a people, band together and, call out all the hoodie ninjas and the neckbeards and the freaks and the geeks and get these guys out here to get together, organize, and convince merchants to accept Bitcoin.
Create coin mobs.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Start a coin mob.
A coin mob of hoodie ninjas. And what were the other ones?
What I say, neckbeards. And
can we include some of those old people with hay sticking out of their hat and the pitchforks, that were chasing down Frankenstein too? They make for good mobs. Real good.
They're great mobs. Yeah, lanterns too. Lots of lanterns.
I think that in all seriousness, a lot of people that are some of the, prime targets are some of these, farmers markets, these guys that are out here, trying to build an economy outside of the US dollar, outside of the typical consumer marketplace.
As a business owner and as someone trying to create the coin mobs scene and website, how do you connect those two things? What advice do you have or what ideas do you have for connecting Bitcoin mobs and bringing them into businesses and getting businesses to start accepting Bitcoin? John and I and Bitcoins and Gravy, we've discussed quite a lot trying to create Bitcoin mobs to bring to local businesses here in Nashville, Tennessee and around East Nashville and help incentivize businesses to start accepting Bitcoin. How can coin mobs help some locals like ourselves incentivize local businesses and get mobs started around
to get ourselves a Bitcoin zone here?
Exactly.
That is exactly the point of what CoinMobs is. CoinMobs is designed. My idea was I don't want this to be just a local, Nashville thing or a Tennessee thing, not just a US thing either. I want this to be a worldwide phenomenon. So what I've done is, I've built this platform where people can jump on board, they can register on our forums, they can send us their information, and we have basically a rank structure. Being from, a military background, I figured the best way to handle that is to just build a rank structure like the military. And so what we're going to do is we're registering people as captains, coin mob captains. And these captains are then responsible for organizing the coin mob that they want to see come off. That captain is responsible for approaching the business, or maybe even multiple businesses, and ensuring that they have the capacity to accept the Bitcoin. Going in a week or two in advance, making sure that they're all set up and that they have the ability to actually accept Bitcoin, they know what they're doing, and then letting this merchant know that in a week, 2 weeks time, or whatever the time frame is, that you're going to have on this day 30 or 40 or however many people are going to patronize your business and shower Bitcoins upon you simply because you accept Bitcoin.
That's so cool. I love this. Bitcoin is proving to be kind of the opposite of the old saying, think globally, act locally. Because Bitcoin, you're talking about think locally, act globally.
Correct.
And then not only that, but Bitcoin is also going to be the currency that funds the war on fiat. I'd like to hear a little bit more about CoinMobs.
Yes.
And I'd like for you to paint us sort of an idealistic picture of CoinMobs in action.
Well, there's many different ways that this is going to work, right? The people out there listening on the internet, the guys, you read the Reddit forums and you say, hey, I'm really interested in this CoinMobs. I want to get in. I want to be a CoinMob captain. I want to, help organize and participate in this endeavor as much as I can. So they contact us through the website and we set them up as a captain. Basically, there's forums and ways of communicating with each other. And we create a scenario where they follow kind of like a simple little set of guidelines. We want to make sure that, the merchants are being respected and that, we have taken every precaution, up front to make sure that merchant has the ability to handle the kind of traffic that we want to bring in. And then the captain and everybody else, they all jump on committing to visit that merchant on that given day. And the way that we pick the merchant, it can be just somebody's idea. It can be random people can just suggest a merchant, whatever. And then we just, as a consensus, we all agree, through a voting system that this is the merchant that we want to go to on this day. And these are the numbers of people that have committed to it, 35.
And the captain is almost like an emissary between the mob.
Correct. That's exactly that. They are a representative of the Bitcoin community, and they're out there to make sure that that the merchant is going to have a good experience. B, the Bitcoin users are going to have a good experience, and then that captain can facilitate feedback. This merchant can then tell their merchant friends, and merchants can request to get mobbed. The merchant can go on the website and say, hey, mob me, and those merchants then will, put themselves out there and say, hey, I already accept Bitcoin. I want the Bitcoin community to come patronize my business.
Okay. And there are instances where the mob would just go to a business that had never accepted Bitcoin before. Is that a possibility? And how would that work?
Absolutely. Well, if the business does not have the ability to accept Bitcoin, having 30 people show up with Bitcoin is kind of pointless.
Well, not necessarily. I was just thinking 30 people show up with Bitcoin, right? And then there's the captain or someone, there's the corporal or sergeant or whatever.
Somebody has to take charge of the mob.
Can mediate between the merchant, right?
Yes.
With cash and the people with Bitcoin. Is that a possibility? Is that part of your model or no?
Of course it would work. Yeah, it would absolutely work. But the idea is, mob the merchant. And then when we get done mobbing the merchant is now in a position where they can handle any transaction in Bitcoin. We get them set up with the accounts. And, it's simple. A captain has the option of going out and selling, 7-inch Android tablets with Mycelium loaded on it, or, set up a Bitstamp account or Coinbase. And they can go out there and they can offer their services. So a captain has to be relatively, technically competent and have a good understanding of Bitcoin and just a overall feel for how the entire thing works. And then, as that kind of builds, more and more merchants will be there to accept Bitcoin.
So at the beginning, the merchants are mostly people who have been informed ahead of time, who are interested or have shown some interest in accepting Bitcoin?
Yeah, the captain's going to facilitate that transaction.
Okay.
So ultimately, as a captain organizes a mob, they're going to pick a day, maybe a time, or perhaps perhaps they don't have a time. They just do a whole day or maybe a week or whatever's convenient by consensus for that particular store.
Right. So the captain's also a salesperson. They've got to be really good at that. That seems like the really hard part. That's the part where you're trying to get your foot in the door.
Yeah.
Well, it's not really that hard of a scenario. If you imagine somebody comes into your business and says, "Hey, I've talked to 40 of my friends over here, and they all want to come in and do business with you. But in order to do that, you have to be able to accept our currency."
That's the best kind of sale right there. I can bring 40 people in and increase your sales today if you will try this out.
Exactly. Now, there's a whole bunch of details about this that I think are really cool. One of them is that in order to assist captains in being able to organize their mobs, we want to be able to provide them with printed material like trifold brochures and stuff that they can give to merchants to inform them, to clue them in on what's going on and why we're doing this, why it's so important, not just for ourselves but for the merchants. The merchants, they're the ones that ultimately are going to be hurt the most by an inflating U.S. dollar.
Now, are you going to try and coordinate with the folks up in Canada who are printing the Bitcoin brochures and get some of those down here to help spread the word?
I hadn't thought about it, but that's entirely possible. We could do that. And so ultimately, the coinmobs.com website is where everybody just needs to go, get signed up, register themselves, and we all communicate. We throw out the ideas. We do those things. Now, I don't want to take away from like the Bitcoin, Bitcoin Talk forums, because that's a whole community in and of itself. We have one basic sole mission, and that is to get merchant adoption.
Yeah, it's like a Bitcoin meetup for mobs.
Correct.
So what if you have a really tough merchant and they just won't bend, they won't do it? Do you send in a Tennille, a really pretty girl, and she kind of talks them into it?
Yes, we do.
I can picture it now. I can picture the commercial down the road where it's like, the grumpy business owner who doesn't quite get it yet. It's the Frankenstein, right?
Bitcoin,
and finally the mob shows up. I don't know who would be the captain though, but I do know that like Lyft has all these cars driving around with fuzzy pink mustaches on the front. I'd love to see, the captain of the coin mob showing up driving, the short bus with the big fuzzy pitchfork on the front of it. And then
Nice.
hey, there's a coin mob bus going by.
The possibilities are endless and limitless. So yeah, anything that works in marketing can be applied. If it's a good idea, we should use it. No matter what it is.
I was going to say, let's do a mob on one of those pedal bike bars that you see downtown all the time, and we get the big Bitcoin logo on top of the pedal bar going.
Those things are so silly, man. Those people get drunker and drunker, and they can barely pedal. How do those things even move? It's insane.
Well, we are in Tennessee, aren't we? One of the the largest states and one of the largest countries in terms of ability to ride one of those things. I don't know.
That's true. Hey, so Sean, your website is up and running now, or it is not? Let's let our listeners know what to expect.
It is up and running. It is functional.
Okay.
Obviously, we're making it prettier and getting more functionality as the day goes by. I have a tendency to work very fast.
Okay.
So I can go from 0 to 70 in 24 to 48 hours.
Okay, good.
So that is a viable way to start. We can start taking people registrations right now. Something else, and while it's on the top of my head, I wanted to mention it. There is obviously there is an incentive for us as individuals to want to be captains and to want to be leaders in this movement, but one of the things that we've envisioned is being able to create either a metacoin or maybe even an alt currency in and of itself as a way to incentivize these mob members that want to participate. So, whether you're a coin mob captain or a coin mob general or even just a coin mob sergeant, if you can go out and show that you can get results and that you're doing things and you're being proactive in the community, we want to be able to compensate you for that effort that you're putting into it. And that those coins, whatever we end up doing, because we haven't made any decisions yet on how we're going to do that, but we want to be able to sell T-shirts and tablets and different things that we would be able to trade for for those for that currency, whatever it happens to be.
Yeah, well, that's great. Well, I will say, as a newcomer to Bitcoin, I guess we're all kind of newcomers, but as one whose head often spins at the thought of more and more and more alt currencies, let's please, I ask that you please just start with the focus on Bitcoin and get us all comfy there first. That
was actually my very first, I'm kind of, while I do mine, and I have to admit, I'm a script miner, I do very little actual Bitcoin mining or SHA-256 mining anymore because it's just so darn difficult. It's more profitable to mine script. So in that respect, I have a little love for alt currencies, but ultimately what it boils down to is my real passion is for Bitcoin. I think that's where the secret is. That's where the ticket is. And so my initial concept was we'll pay, the currency of choice would be Bitcoin. We'll pay in Bitcoin. Now, in order to do that, we have to have Bitcoin. We have to have, some funds in reserve that we'll actually be able to afford to pay that out, because, things get expensive. You start getting into, t-shirts and printed materials and stickers and decals and things like that. It gets expensive. So, anything, that's another thing too, that as community members, we're not just asking for them to organize the mobs, but, participate in the community. We can use forum moderators, web developers, anybody that can contribute anything at any point in the ecosystem is definitely welcome. And we want to see everybody, put forth whatever effort they can provide.
That's great. I think you're going to have a lot of people responding to you, Sean. Thank you so much for being here. It was great having you on the show.
Absolutely.
Yes, indeed, Sean. Count us in when it's time to do a first coin mob here in East Nashville. We want to participate for sure.
I've already got some places picked out.
Yeah, man. I don't know if I have what it takes to be a captain, but I'll be in the platoon or whatever. I'll show up. Sure. I'll show up with my pitchfork.
I'll be a private.
Okay.
There you go.
That's easy.
Cool.
You already are.
Well, thank you so much for joining us tonight, Sean. It's really been a pleasure to have you here on Bitcoins and Gravy with us.
Absolutely, anytime.
And thank you for making the long drive to get here.
Yeah,
hey, it's no problem.
Can you tell our listeners how they can find you?
On coinmobs.com, coinmobs.com. And you can also find us on Twitter at CoinMobs and Facebook.com/CoinMobs.
Right on. Well,
great.
We look forward to hearing more about it as you develop and launch the site and get everything rolling.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Sean.
Cheers.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thanks so much to our guests on today's show, Paul Paterakis, Chris Dosh, and Sean Roy. To find out more about our guests and sponsors, visit our show notes at bitcoinsandgravy.com/episode 16. Thank you so much for listening to our show. We greatly appreciate your time and attention. If you like the show, please remember to go to iTunes and leave us a review. Also, hit the subscribe button if you'd like to hear from Bitcoins and Gravy each week.
And remember the Bitcoins and Gravy hotline. Have you ever wanted to be a podcaster? Then call us at 615-208-5198 and leave us a message with your comments, questions, or complaints. This is your opportunity to tell us what you think. If you give us permission, we will put you on the show. So call the Bitcoins and Gravy hotline at 615-208-5198. That's right. That's the Bitcoins and Gravy hotline. And of course, we offer a number of ways for you to download all of our past podcasts. You can go to letstalkbitcoin.com or directly from iTunes, or you can go to our website, bitcoinsandgravy.com. If you enjoyed the show, please take a moment and leave a review or comment on iTunes or SoundCloud. Let us know what you like or where we can improve.
And remember, it's your reviews that help new listeners discover Bitcoins and Gravy, plus all the other great shows on the Let's Talk Bitcoin podcast network. And it's your generous tips that allow us to create the shows.
I'm John Barrett.
And I'm Lij Shaw, and you've been listening to
Bitcoins and Gravy from East Nashville, Tennessee.